waiting room in, and I'm just going to say a few quick words, and I'm going to turn it over to all of you. Okay? Right. It looks like we are filtering in our participants. Thank you all for joining us at our last official session of the Rainbows Over the Rockies 2021 Summit. We do have one session after this. We are going to be talking about our Leadership in Action Awards, and we'd love it if all of you would join us for that, especially if you are planning to apply for one of those awards. We can give you a little heads up on the information and where you can find it. But before that, we have got Anna, Ruby, and Emma, and who are going to talk to us about why pronouns matter. And Anna Zagelow is the 4-H volunteer with the Washington State 4-H Teen Equity and Inclusion Task Force. And Ruby Coulson and Emma Fontenot are the teen 4-H leaders with the Washington State 4-H Teen Equity and Inclusion Task Force. So the three of you, take it away.
Can we pin Emma and Ruby? Or can they pin themselves?
I think you can pin yourselves. Are you both co-hosts? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, okay. Okay, so hello everyone. We will now be presenting a workshop called Why Pronouns Matter, and we will also open it up to a roundtable discussion towards the end for any questions or ideas you would like to share. So my name is Emma, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a 9th grader in Washington, and I'm a part of the Washington State 4-H Teen Equity and Inclusion Task Force. And this is also my 8th year in 4-H, and my favorite project is creative arts.
Hi, you guys. My name is Ruby Coulson, and I use she, they pronouns. I'm currently a sophomore in high school at Sequim, Washington, and I've been in the task force for almost a year. This is also my 8th year in 4-H, and I've done the horse project for all 8 of them with my horse, Sandy.
So, what even is a pronoun? If you aren't sure what pronouns are, that is completely fine. Let's first watch this informational video from Jackson Bird on what pronouns are and how we should use them for each other. So Ruby's going to share that. Ruby also put the link in the chat if you wanted to watch it later too.
Hi, I'm Jackson Bird. I'm a YouTuber and writer from New York City. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I also happen to be a trans guy.
No sound coming through.
Pronouns are words we use to refer to each other or to objects when we aren't
I can
using
hear it.
their
Can
names.
anyone else not hear it?
I used one right now. There. That's a pronoun. Most of us just learn about she, her, and he, him as pronouns for individual people, but lots of people use other pronouns like they, them, ze, here, and more. Sometimes people get confused or even upset about these more gender-neutral pronouns as if it's somehow a personal affront on them, but we naturally use singular they, them pronouns without thinking about it. Like, if you saw an abandoned phone at a cafe, you might tell the barista, hey, someone left their phone behind. And according to the Oxford English Dictionary, the singular they pronoun has been in use in the English language since at least the 16th century. For us trans people who have maybe had to work very hard to be seen in the world as the gender that we are, pronouns are particularly powerful. If you're a cisgender person, in other words, someone whose gender aligns with the one you were assigned at birth, just imagine what it would feel like if everyone insisted on referring to you with a different pronoun than the one you use. It's frustrating, it's demeaning, it feels like no one is listening to you or respecting a core part of who you are. And that is why someone's pronouns aren't optional. What they tell you their pronouns are, that's the pronouns you use. They aren't a preference, and they aren't up to you to decide which pronouns to use for someone else. That's something we all get to declare for ourselves. And quick pro tip, even when you're talking about someone in the past tense, maybe telling a story about them before they transitioned, you should still use the name and pronouns they currently use. If you've already exchanged names, you can start the question by saying, hey, by the way, I use he, him pronouns. What about you? It's always good to say your pronouns too, don't just ask theirs, because again, you're making them feel like the odd one out as opposed to welcoming them in. I first started experimenting with he, him pronouns with trusted friends long before I came out publicly, because for me, those pronouns were an important part of my male identity that I wanted to get used to and see if they felt right. A weird thing about pronouns is that even when they do feel right, they can still feel uncomfortable for a while as you get used to them. Like, even if your old pronouns never felt right, you likely did use the same pronouns for many, many years, and change can take time to adjust to. And here's another little secret. At least at the start, we trans people sometimes use the wrong pronoun in our heads for ourselves. Doesn't mean we're not on the right path or not trans or whatever, it just means that brains are weird, and it's okay for change to take time. Now, if after all of that you still trip up and say the wrong pronoun, here's what to do. Correct yourself and move on. Don't make a big deal out of it. Plenty of people have brain farts and misspeak all the time, but the more you treat it like a quick slip-up, the more the other person might believe it actually was just a slip-up, and the less likely you are to put them in danger. Hopefully, you won't have to educate them too much, but if they're super lost and you don't feel like being a teacher that day because you don't have to be a teacher every day of your life, maybe point them towards this video, or even my book. I have a book called Sorted: Growing Up, Coming Out, and Finding My Place.
Okay. Sorry about those brief technical issues, you guys. Turns out I don't know how to use Zoom.
Okay, thanks, Ruby. Now, if you're comfortable and you haven't already done it, let's all put our pronouns in our Zoom name. So, if you're wondering why you should put your pronouns in your Zoom name, it's part of normalizing the use of pronouns and making it easier for transgender and gender nonconforming people to use their pronouns. So this is how you do that. You click on the Participants tab, and then click on Your Name and More, and then click on Rename, and then enter a new screen name for yourself. This could just be your name and then the pronouns that you want other people to use for you, and then that will be your new Zoom name. So to exist successfully, we need to change the way that we treat each other, stay vigilant, and lose our bad habits like assuming other people's pronouns. Now Ruby is going to lead us in a name game.
Okay, you guys. So the purpose and objectives of these games is to be able to use the names of people in the workshop. The first time we're going to put a picker wheel up on the screen with all of your names, and we're going to spin the wheel, and when it lands on you, just say your name. Super easy. Okay. I think we got this.
Hey, Ruby, because it's such a large group, what if we do just the second step in this?
Okay, cool. When you say your name, also say your pronouns, because we're gonna work on that. So when it lands on your name, say your name and pronouns.
Hi, hopefully you can hear me. My name is Allison or Allie, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Ruby, and I use she, they pronouns.
Annie may not be right on the call right
Yeah,
now.
that makes sense. Okay, we can just skip them. It's okay if they don't respond. We could just skip them, move on.
Hi, my name's Sarah. She, her, and hers.
Awesome, thanks.
Kimberly, she, her, hers.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Wendy, and I use she, her pronouns.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Anna, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I use the pronouns she, her, hers.
Thanks, Lisa.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hello y'all, I am Anna and I use ze, zer, zers pronouns.
Hi, I'm Sam and I use he, they pronouns.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, hello everyone. My name's Emma and I use she, her pronouns. Is there a gnat out there?
She may
That's
not
it.
be
Oh.
with us right now either.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Can move on.
Hi, I'm Tara. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Deb, and my pronouns are she, her.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, I wonder who it'll be.
Dang, if this was Wheel of Fortune, I would have lost so badly. Anyway, it's Primrose, she, her. And I'd actually put a question in chat saying, does her, hers become redundant? And can you please explain? Thank you.
Okay, Ruby, do you think we should talk about that right now or should we save it toward the end?
I think I can briefly talk about it. It's mostly just that in some ungendered pronouns, there are similar possessive plural and possessive singular. So for people who use she, her, hers pronouns, it can be kind of clarifying for to identify that there's a singular and a plural possessive, whereas in other pronouns, there's just one for each. And also just preference.
Yeah. Thanks for the English lesson. Okay. So that was our name game. Next we have, Ruby's gonna lead us in another pronoun game, and it's on the -18 website.
While Emma sets this up, I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about -18. -18 is a website that allows us to use non-binary and gender fluid pronouns in sentences and real-life applications. Yeah, this is a great website. So we're gonna go over two sets of pronouns. And we're gonna start with Z. The subject form of Z is Z. The object form is them. The possessive is zir, zirs. And the reflexive is them self. So here we can see that both the possessive singular and the possessive plural are different, but in some selective cases, they are the same, which is why some people choose that. That was a great question, Primrose. Thank you. So here are some applications. Z really loves burgers. Those cats belong to them. Their bedroom is upstairs. These all by themselves. Okay, so now in the chat, there's going to be an option to type a word, and you guys can put whatever pronoun you think best fits here, and I'll type it in and we'll see how it goes. Okay, I'm seeing lots of Z's.
Yeah.
That's correct. I called blank yesterday. Lots of M's. You guys are good at this. Wow. That is blank, not mine. Zers. Yep. Z touched the bird, blank. Them self. Halfway. I'm in love with blank. Yep.
Looks like people are saying them.
Lots of thems. I think my chat is a little lagged. Okay. Blank will take over the world. Lots of enthusiastic Z's. Z loves blank a lot. This one can be tough because it doesn't specify necessarily. It could be them or themself, but in this case, they do prefer themself. Self-love.
But you guys got it right. Either way,
Oh.
it could be either.
Yeah. Blank feet smell bad. Ears. Any other ideas? See a zem, a zir, another zir. Oops. Let's go with zir. Yep. I think blank hates bananas. Yep, lots of Z's. I learned blank pronouns. Seeing an even distribution of zir and zirs. Does anyone want to break that tie?
Yeah, this one's kind of a tough one also.
Yeah. One more person. You guys got this. One more. Zirs. Let's see. Oop. You guys are close. This one is a tough one. I learned zir pronouns. Awesome. Okay.
Nice job, everyone.
So some of those can be kind of confusing on which ones, but you guys got it. The questions remain the same for the next set of pronouns, which is going to be ze, ear. So this is a popular gender neutral pronoun often used by non-binary or transgender people. The subject form is ze, the object form is ear, the possessive singular is ear, the possessive plural is ears, and the reflexive is ear self. Okay, here are some applications. Z really loves burgers. Those cats belong to ear. Ear bedroom is upstairs. Z's all by hear self. Okay, so it's going to be the same questions, same order. Okay, blank
Hi,
loves
Primrose.
cheese a lot. Thank you, Primrose. Z, yep. I called blank yesterday. Ear. That is blank, not mine. That is ears, not mine. Z touched the bird, blank. Ear. Oops. Yep, halfway. I'm in love with blank. Ear. Blank will take over the world. C. Z loves blank a lot. Yeah, you guys got this. Blank feet smell bad. Ear, feet smell bad. I think blank hates bananas. C. And the last one, I learned blank pronouns. I learned ear pronouns. Wow. Okay, you guys, that was amazing.
You guys did really good on that one.
Yeah, that was probably the best I've seen in a while, to be honest. Okay, so I think, yeah. Okay, so now that we've practiced using some gender neutral pronouns a little bit, we're going to talk about some helpful tips to remember people's pronouns. So in case you haven't gotten it at this point, which is totally fine, pronouns are just words that are substitute for nouns. Gender pronouns are used in place of a person's name. This list is not exhaustive, but it is a good place to start. So today we used Z and Z ear pronouns, and this one also shows they and a, which are also really common gender pronouns. So Respecting people's pronouns is more than just respect. It's also saving lives. In a national study, 40% of transgender adults reported having made a suicide attempt. 92 of these individuals reported having attempted suicide before the age of 25. LGBTQ+ youth are almost 5 times as likely to have attempted suicide compared to heterosexual youth. Transgender youth who go through gender-conforming surgeries for their gender dysphoria, a clinical diagnosis where one of the treatments is surgery, can see a potential decrease in continued mental health struggles. When you misgender these youth, purposefully or accidentally, it can make it much harder to get over gender dysphoria and potentially amplify depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts.
Thanks, Ruby. Here are some other helpful hints surrounding pronouns. So first, you should use the pronoun that a person asks you to use for them. And second, introduce yourself with your pronouns. Don't just think that other people would already know yours. And if you don't know someone's pronouns, ask them politely. Don't just ask people that you think are gender nonconforming. And when you make a mistake, act, apologize, correct, and then try again. So what is ACT? ACT is the best way to respond if you make a pronoun mistake, and it's only 3 simple steps. So first, you should apologize. Quickly say you're sorry and try not to make it a super big deal. Second, you should correct yourself. Say the phrase or sentence again with the correct pronouns for the person. And then third, you should try again. Continue to use their pronouns in common speech and practice it on your own if you continue to get it wrong for them. So now we're going to play another pronoun game, and we will go around in a circle and answer one of these questions on the screen, or you can just share a fun fact about yourself. After someone goes, the next person will repeat what they said, but using gender neutral pronouns, like the examples on the screen. For example, if I said, I have a dog and a cat, then the person that goes after me will say, they have a dog and a cat, or Z has a dog and a cat, just using gender neutral pronouns. Then they will share their own fun fact. So after you go, call on someone else to go after you. This game is a good way to practice using gender neutral pronouns with people. So just to do a little example, I'll go first. So a fun fact about me is that I love art. And then I'll call on Ruby.
And then I would go, a fun fact about them is that they like art. Okay. My favorite frozen yogurt topping is marshmallow cream. And I'm going to call on Sam and Maida.
Okay. Wait, say yours again.
My favorite frozen yogurt topping is marshmallow cream.
Okay. Their favorite frozen yogurt topping is marshmallow cream. My favorite hobby is dancing.
Their favorite hobby is dancing, and I help run a sheep farm.
I'm gonna call on someone.
And I'll call on Anna.
There's 2 Annas. I'll take it this time. They help run a, they help run a sheep farm. And my favorite 4-H memory is as an adult going to CWF. And I will call on Kimberly. Or if Kimberly isn't here, I'll call on Tara.
All right. If I was an animal, oh wait, I need to do yours first. Their favorite 4-H memory was CWF. And if I was an animal, I would be a llama. And I'm going to call on Wendy.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Okay. If they were an animal, they would be a llama. And I like to go fishing. Ooh, I got to call on somebody. Sorry. I call on Melissa.
Faye likes to go fishing. And I have a cat and a guinea pig. And I'm going to pick Anna E.
All right. Faye have a cat and a guinea pig. And I like drinking tea on my porch.
Don't forget to pick someone.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's okay.
Lisa Kelly.
I knew that was going to happen. Okay, so I'm really trying to keep up with like this game. So
yeah, you're breaking up a little bit there.
I know I have to look at the internet.
Want me to type it in the chat so then you can go from there?
Yes, please.
There you go.
So I know that Anna likes to drink tea on Zier's porch. Did I do that correctly?
Definitely.
Likes to drink tea on Zier's porch. The pets that I have a menagerie of pets. Leave it at that. So I'm not sure if I did this right.
Yeah, and then just call on someone else to go after you.
Liz, are you on?
Yes. All right. They have a menagerie of pets, and I love dulce de leche for my frozen yogurt topping. And I defer to, let me see the list. Wendy, have you gone yet?
I think Wendy has gone.
Okay. Sam?
I have a question.
Sam has gone, I think.
Yes.
Am I the last one?
That might be it. Has anyone not gone that I'm missing?
How about Deb?
Deb.
Should I try again or?
I think I can take it and finish it off.
Thank you, Ruby.
Yeah. So Zier would really love some dulce de leche ice cream. And I agree. I would like to agree with that. That does sound very good right now. Okay.
You guys did awesome at that game. It's a little bit confusing, but you guys took it really well. That was really fun. Now Ruby's going to talk about the human continuum form, or the feedback form. That's what we're calling it.
Yes, I am. Okay. So I have just put in the chat a simple Google Forms to rate our performance, rate the content, and ask questions. So, we have an hour and we have 25 minutes left. So take your time, put as many questions in as you would like, and we will discuss those. for the next however long it takes. You can also put questions in the chat, 100%. We will answer those as they come in. So go to that Google form, please.
Yeah, so we'll just take a couple minutes to let everyone look through that and get that done.
So I'm worried about my spelling, and you took your chart down, so I can't refer to it. Is that okay?
Don't worry about your spelling. It's totally fine.
Okay.
I can put the chart back up. Just give me a second to get that slide.
Thank you, Emma.
Do you want to look at this one, or would you like to look at the bigger purple one?
Sorry, muted. This is fine, thank you.
So I have just gotten some really awesome questions in the human continuum form. Oh, if you guys are still answering it, don't feel rushed. Totally take your time. One of the questions that came up was, how do you talk with people who do not feel gender neutral pronouns are real words? They refuse to use them, saying they are made up. And that is, totally a valid question. And it can be really, really disheartening to be around someone who is like, oh, those are just fake words. And, I think the best way is to start conversations, so that the fact that this person is saying these aren't real words, you can say, well, that's a really hard, you can't really quantify words. Can you? Is anything a real word? And it's, even if you don't think it's a real word, you should still respect someone's pronouns the same way you respect someone's name. If it's someone who's discrediting your own pronouns, I think it could be a safety issue if they're like, oh, your pronouns aren't real. And have actually never gotten this question, like worded this way. So I have to be honest, I'm not fully sure because I've never had someone tell me pronouns like aren't real words, but I've heard people say that, like in just, internet spaces. But I think at the basis, it's just about respect. And even if you don't think it's real, which they are very real, you just have to help that person along and be like, you use my name, you're going to use my pronouns.
I think that maybe not, you don't have to be a teacher every day of your life. If you do use gender neutral pronouns, you shouldn't have to explain to everyone your identity every day. But I definitely think that education is the best place to start for a lot of people who wouldn't believe in it. So also telling them like maybe these are people's identity and how they identify, kind of how Ruby was talking about, it can really harm their mental health when someone misgenders them constantly. And just kind of explaining that it's really hard for someone when you don't use their correct pronouns. Does anyone else have any thoughts about that? Oh, Ruby is going to talk.
Yeah, if Anna has a better way to say it, I would 100% appreciate that.
Well, I've had fun with this conversation before. I'm also a language student, so the idea that any words aren't made up is kind of funny to me because all words came from somewhere. And so that tends to be one of my immediate clapbacks is just, well, all words are made up. Where do you think they came from? Up until a few years ago, we didn't say things like BRB. Now we say it. We see new things coming into the dictionary all the time because words happen. Language is made as it's needed, and this is a need, so language is getting made up. I've also, of course, had the argument of, well, it's a new word and these new things, words have to be around longer for it to be true. Well, actually, neopronouns have been around for, like 200 years at least, so it's not new. Yeah, Melissa posts adulting. There's another good one that's a recent addition to our lexicon. But for me, pointing out that no, this isn't new. And also that, well, if you really want to get technical about it, we shouldn't be saying you because we are only supposed to talk to the bishop that way. You should be saying thee, thy, and thine because you is the formal word. This is a change that happened in the 1600s. Because if pronouns never change, right, then we should be still using that is thine and thou shalt. But words change as we need them to. And at one point, we all decided collectively as a culture that it was not a great plan to keep calling everything thee, thou, thy, and thine. We were going to start using you for everybody. We added y'all at one point. And so it changed because we needed it to. Now it's just changing because we need it to again.
That was awesome. I think that's a really cool perspective.
I really appreciate that, Anna. Thank you. So another question we got is how are pronouns addressed or changing in other languages like Spanish, German, Italian, and Russian? So I am in a Spanish class right now, and my Spanish teacher is just an absolute babe. I love her so much. She is working with my Spanish class to start using pronouns such as ella and ellas, which is slowly coming into fruition in Spain Spanish or European Spanish. I know that in German, they are actually integrating a similar, oh, yes, oh my gosh, sorry. I will type those in. AA is spelled with an E, and AS is the plural version. In German, they are actually integrating a similar program or language switch because lots of English, as we know it, is taken from a similar base to German languages. They're both Germanic, they both have Latin roots. It's kind of not exclusively English. I can only speak about Spanish and German, but it's definitely helping that there are people in other countries that are like, hey, we need to really start talking about the people who aren't fitting into the gender binary. And if anyone can speak about Italian and Russian, 100%, take it away.
Yeah, I think it's harder, especially in like gendered languages like Spanish, where everything is, if you know Spanish, you know, like everything is either feminine or masculine, most things. So it's kind of hard to, you know, switch people's thinking about that. But I definitely think that people are starting to learn more about different pronouns that you can use. And, you know, not everything has to be the feminine or the masculine form in Spanish. So yeah, does anyone else know any other languages and have any perspective on that?
It's
okay, that's really
honestly-
cool, Anna.
Yeah, it's amazing we have a linguist with us today. Really appreciate that. Yeah, there are a lot of languages like Spanish, Italian, French that are heavily gendered. And there are also languages that just don't use gender. Yeah, I'm sure I could list like a one or two of them, but I also forgot. Yeah, Finnish. Finnish only has one pronoun. Yep, I think I knew that too. It's also, I think English is or our American English is one of the most expansive languages. So it's easier for us as English speakers to integrate new words in, whereas in other countries, sometimes with a limited vocabulary, it can be harder to push new words in that people aren't super familiar with. Okay, this is an awesome question. I think I'm gonna pass this one over to Emma to answer. I hope she's on my right. How would you suggest teaching pronouns to a homophobic, binary, or unaccepting group? Because you guys are like super cool and super nice, but sometimes people aren't super cool and super nice. So
yeah, that's a really hard one. I mean, of course, it's really hard to like, you know, if you yourself use gender neutral pronouns, it's definitely really hard to just feel like personally attacked when you're talking with someone like that. I know it's definitely really hard. Like I said before, like education is really important, but also it's hard when someone's constantly trying to like put up a fight against you, or, you know, if they're so hard on their stance about it, then they probably wouldn't be open to being educated and learning more about it. So yeah, it's really hard. Does anyone have any thoughts or have any experience with that? I think that sometimes representation is very important. So if more people are being represented in like TV shows or movies that, you know, a greater audience is watching, then it can be like slowly introduced like, oh yeah, my favorite character from that movie, you know, uses they them pronouns. So it's like they wouldn't be as angry about the idea that someone in real life in their world is using gender neutral pronouns. So we could have a whole conversation about how representation is really important. Ruby said the key is repetition and knowing when to stop for your mental health. So yeah, repetition. I mean, if someone's misgendering you, then definitely it's hard to have the courage to like stand up and correct someone, but it's just like, it's really important that they know like that's the wrong pronoun. And it can be kind of, you know, it can be embarrassing for you if you stood up and corrected someone, but it could also be embarrassing for them. Like if in front of a whole audience, they say your wrong name and then you're like, no, like this is actually my name, then it can be embarrassing for them that they, you know, use the wrong name or the wrong pronouns for you. And knowing when to stop for your mental health is really important because, you know, you can't fight a battle all day long because it's really bad for how you feel about yourself. Allison, you can share an experience.
Yeah, hi. So the question you posed a little while back, I I often, when I'm in a really tricky situation, try identity swapping as an entry into the concept that we're getting at, which is really just respect and safety. I'm coming, by the way, I should share, I'm coming from the perspective of overseeing youth development programs. So this is either a conversation within an older teen, or it's more often a conversation with an adult who works within the program. And with pronouns, in the last year, I can think of an example of a conversation with an adult where we, instead of addressing pronouns first, we took a break from that and we talked about names, right? And the idea someone mentioned earlier about this pronoun is made up, that's not a real word. If you take that exact same comment but just apply it to a name, your name is made up, that's not a real word, that's not how you would spell it, that's not how it's pronounced. By identity kind of like swapping and bringing the same comments but to names, I've found recently that was an easier way for us to kind of reach a point where it was like, yeah, no, we would not say that about someone's name, regardless of how we would think we would pronounce it or whatever it is. Someone's name is their name and you just respect it. And if we can get to that point with a name, we can transition back into pronouns, right? So that's been successful. That's also not been successful. And when it hasn't been successful, I've really kind of reached an impasse with an individual where I didn't feel like I could trust that we were going to agree on how to respect people and or youth in my case, and how to keep them safe. So that a whole different process starts there. But for what it's worth, that's what came to mind.
Thanks. That's a really good tactic. Because pronoun is just a word that's in place in someone's name. So it's a really good perspective on that.
This is Kimberly, and I'll just add on to Allison's comment. I've actually used an exercise and I participated and presented last year's Rainbow Over the Rockies, where you actually do take that name. And I think with audiences of that nature, you really have to make it personal so that they can have that understanding. It may not be the same experience as LGBTQ plus individuals dealing with pronouns and things like that, but if you can make it personal to that particular audience, I think there is lots of value in that, because then they have to own it. And when you have to have ownership of your actions and how you want to be approached, then it makes a whole difference on how they're willing to approach everybody else and have that respect.
Hi, this is Lisa. I just want to say, for the youth in the room, sometimes it's really just for your own mental health, your emotional health, is to evaluate the situation you're in. If you're teaching and you're in a position of power where you're teaching, then you can go from that standpoint of education, and you can try and convince, but try and educate in different ways the group that you're working with. If you're in a college class or a high school class and you have a person of authority who is, you're trying to explain who you are, what your pronouns are, and that teacher or person of authority is not respecting you, in that situation, it's illegal. They need to, they're federally funded. They understand your mind. I'm not going to stand here and argue with my teacher because I have a legal standing. I have a right to my own personality. You can safely walk away and deal with it in other manners. Situation. Go to and you introduce yourself with pronouns and so forth, and another person or part of the group or a classmate just isn't getting it, or showing you that there's respect, that they don't care. There are 8 billion people in the world you can be friends with. You just in your mind say, this is not a relationship that I'm going to cultivate or I'm going to nurture, and it's their loss, not mine, and you move on. And it's, so I think as you mature and can recognize that, I think that's a really good safeguard for your mental and emotional health, and also being able to understand that some people you will change and other people you won't.
And I know Ruby and Emma are newer to our task force, but I've told some of the kids in the past, if you're in these situations and it is like an adult 4-H leader or staff member that isn't using your correct pronouns, you can go to another adult and check in with them, because like everyone's saying, it is truly your right. It is part of our civil right to be identified as you identify. So you can, it is so good to educate, but especially if it's doing an emotional strain on you, you can go to another adult and be like, hello, I'm here in the 4-H program, and someone is disrespecting me and either dead naming or using the incorrect pronoun. So we're here to support our youth, but sometimes you have to find an adult who has had some education around this to support you. But you guys are awesome, I know, advocating. And I also wanted to, I think when we wrote this, we left out a bit when we moved to virtual, which was the acronym ACT. I don't know, the apologize, correct, try again. And so you guys talked about exactly that, but that's an acronym that we've used in our task force to help us all to remember not to make it about the person apologizing, but to move forward and not to let it be such a big deal that then all anybody remembers is that somebody has a pronoun that someone else got wrong. We just want to correct it and move on. And I was also thinking, this is just my personal feedback, when we were talking about like mispronouncing names and stuff, obviously there's always a first time when you get to know somebody and you hear their name, you learn how to say it. But in instances where people's names like repeatedly get misspelled or mispronounced, that's a form of racism. And when somebody is repeatedly saying, this is my pronoun, and everybody is constantly getting it wrong, I feel like that's a form of discrimination. And I think it takes some effort, even though our brains aren't wired that way, to practice and think about it, to be anti-racist and to be like anti-LGBTQ. So I think we can't use it as an excuse. If it's challenging, we just have to work harder, and that would be for adults and youth. I think it's something that comes up a lot. I hear people saying, well, I just don't think that way. It's hard for me. So I don't know what you guys think, Emma and Ruby, about that.
No, I agree. I think sometimes it's just, time. And then after a certain amount of time, if people continue to just disrespect you, you just have to say like, well, I guess you can't, you're not like, well, I guess this is just how it is, but like, well, I guess maybe this isn't like a relationship worth putting more effort than I need to. And if it's in a professional setting, there are lots of protections. I think we can all agree that you should never ever stay in a toxic relationship where someone doesn't respect your identity. Yeah.
Well, and I think like I've been that adult where like I repeatedly keep using the wrong pronouns. And that's where I feel like my learning took place, that I have to practice. It is not okay to day after day keep using the wrong pronouns. So I think there's some responsibility that I and others, we all need to take for taking the time to learn. And I'm not even talking about trying to get it perfect. I'm just trying to, I've had youth come to me and be like, this is not okay. You've been doing this for days. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I need to actually learn it.
May I add another thought? So when it comes to using, and I'm going to say, or folks saying, well, I can't learn how to do that. That's something new. It's not how I've always known this person. Do folks, and I'm saying broadly, folks complain when a cisgender heterosexual woman gets married and changes her last name. That's celebrated. You can do that. You can do this.
Yeah, I think there's lots of like examples that have been completely normalized of just like changing, and then when someone does it because like they want to or it's their identity, it's just people can't accept it. So it's not like people can't do it. It's more, I think at the root of it, it's people don't know they should do it, or they just feel like, oh, I don't have to. So yeah, we've really appreciated all your guys' conversations. This has been really, really amazing. I hope everyone took at least one thing from this. On the screen right now is our task force information. I will also be putting it in the chat. Oops, I guess I'm not putting it in the chat. It's not selecting, but you guys can also feel free to contact us through private chat if you want to have a more one-on-one conversation, or if you guys want either of our emails or anything. Thank you, Sam.
Although to be clear, no one-on-ones between an adult and a youth.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, thank you guys all for being here with us today. We're so glad that we got the opportunity to talk with you. And I hope that you learned how to be a better ally and how to use gender neutral pronouns. And if you're interested in our task force more, you can contact us at the resources that have been on the slide. And then here are some other resources to learn more about LGBTQ+ issues. So thank you guys so much for being here. We had an awesome conversation, and I'm really glad that everyone participated because this was really fun.